notes because I loved what you said. Several years ago, you did an absolutely brilliant talk on the multiples. And so many of us are where we are today because of the multiples, but we don't talk about it in the company. It's almost like it's a taboo subject. But you really nailed it. And you use so many great examples. And so Mike, talk to us about how you fell in love with the multiples. And it wasn't just in Primerica. You fell in love with the multiples before then. So Mike, glad to have you on.
Well, it's always fun to work, Bill. I mean, what a blessing it's been, Bill, to be connected with you at the hip for how many years, raise our kids next together. And I don't know of any two people in Primerica in different hierarchies who've ever had the kind of special relationship that you and have. And I get emotional just thinking about it, so can't go there. But anyhow, Bill, one of my pet peeves, and you know the same people I'm talking about, Bill, the company is covered with them. They do 10 by 10, 10 by 10, 10 by 10. They make $100,000 every year. They do just enough to make every trip, but they're right where they were 30 years ago. And that's called addition. How can you recruit 10 people every month? Wouldn't you, if you're working and you get 10, next month you'd think if they recruited some and you recruited some, you'd be having 13, 14, and 15. Every month your team should be growing. But what I see, they do subtraction, addition, addition, subtraction. And what's frustrating, they'll think, well, I'll start doing some multiples, but then we run a contest. Glenn will run one. Hey, listen, if you get 2 recruits this month, we'll give you 80,000 points. And then we forget about building a business. The heck with training those guys we got last month. I've got to go get 2 more guys because I get 50,000 points, and out the window it goes. We keep hearing the key to this business is double-digit recruiting. That's not the key to this business. The business key to this business is multiplication. Double digit, the next month, double, double, then double, double, double. But we don't talk about multiplication, the override. So I'm going to talk a lot about today, just my personal story. And I know a lot of you guys, well, I've heard Tuttle's story a million times. Well, unfortunately, to really point out the stuff I want to do, I've got to share, and I'll probably even share a few things that I really haven't. But I want you to understand from my story how it helped me when I met Art Williams to understand what a perfect, brilliant game plan he had. With my background, I knew it was a no-brainer for me. There was no doubt I was going to be successful, not because I was talented, but because the system allowed me to win. It's like today, if we're going to play basketball, I know I'll win if we go down and there's a bunch of first graders. I know I'll win, but as pros, I ain't got a chance. When I met Art Williams, I knew I'd win because I understood the system. It was playing to my strength. I'd gone to college at Mississippi State, and my folks were very poor. I lived in a little town. We didn't have a stop sign. We had one teacher for 2 grades, and then eventually moved into Natchez. They shut my school down. But nobody where I went to college. So I go to college, had no money. I'm gonna pay my way through. And fortunately, I got a lot of good jobs on campus. I got a room free. I was an RA. I was working the bakery at night. During the day, cutting and wrapping the bread. I got my meals free. I'm working banquets at night. I'm working the libraries on weekends because you had to quote work, but there was nothing to do, so you could study. But that summer, Bill, I looked in, a neighbor came to me and said, Mike, if you can have your bags packed in 2 days, there's an oil boom in Montana. And if you'll go with me, we'll pay you $1,500 a month. Now that's in 68. My dad was making $400 a month. He said, now Mike, it's 12-hour days, 7 days a week. You'll be no TV, but you can live with my wife and I. You'll have no expenses. When you leave home, you'll have $4,500 with you. Now back then, Bill, you could go to college year round, everything for about $1,200 to $1,500. So on the campus, I'm an RA. I've got a room free. I got my meals free. I'm on all these jobs, and then go a $4,500. I go from being the poorest guy on campus to a fat cat. So, I mean, I'm loaded. I do that 2 years in a row. It's unbelievable. I'm indebted to that guy forever. But the problem was my sophomore year, after I just had that first year of work, I became a Christian through the ministry of Campus Crusade for Christ. And a guy by the name of Tom Abernathy immediately started working with me and, quote, discipled me. Now I'm going to use a lot of Primerica terms when I describe Crusade. He was basically like my trainer. He's like a division leader, and I'm a brand new rep. Now, he was part-time, Bill. I was part-time. He was a full-time football player at State, a full-time student, but yet he found time to still have ministry, just like Primerica, you have a full-time job. We don't ask you to go full-time with Crusade. Do it part-time, learn it, just like we do in this business. So he said, Mike, let me start teaching you how to do this business. And my thing keeps shutting off here. So anyhow, I started working with him, and he started planting a dream of me that someday, Mike, you need to go full-time in this ministry, because he was going to go full-time. Well, I got involved in that ministry, and finally I decided to go, when I graduated, my degree was accountant, I'm gonna go full-time in the ministry of Campus Crusade. There was one problem. I had no confidence. I was so introverted. I mean, I couldn't even meet my friend next door. I mean, that was not who I was. So I thought, my gosh, I've got to do something here. So I left a guaranteed $1,500 a month, and I decided to go sell books door to door with Southwestern. Now, my brother made a comment, and a lot of people probably agree with my brother, but he once said, and my brother, bless his heart, doesn't have a dime to his name. He's 2 years older than I am. It doesn't matter what you do in life as long as you find something you really enjoy. On the surface, that sounds pretty good. But I said, John, if I had done that, I'd have become a professional handball player. And in my prime, if I could have been the #1 player in the world, I may have made $40,000 a year. There's no money playing handball. And now at 72, if I could hustle Bill Orender in a game of handball, I might make $5. And I'd be as broke as my brother, because he wanted to make arrowheads for a living. I doubt anybody in this call today needs to buy an arrowhead, but that's what he does. Whooped in, he's dead broke, but he did what he liked doing. I decided that I needed to take a job selling books, because, Bill, it would get me to where I wanted to go. Most people don't ever think about where do they want to be when they're 40. They're 50, they're 60. For some reason, as a young guy, I was thinking those terms, because I didn't want to end up where my parents and all the parents that I grew up with ended up at. And I'm thinking, man, I've got to make some changes here. So I decided to go sell books. Now, the guy that hired me, the most money he had ever made in a summer was $1,400, excuse me. Now I'm leaving a job that pays me a guaranteed $4,500 to go sell door to door, taking all that rejection, 12 hours a day, way off in South Carolina, knowing I'll probably make less than $1,200 for the whole summer, but it would get me where I wanted to go. And Bill, is the greatest training I've ever had. People often say, what do you contribute most to the success you had in this business? The summer I spent knocking on Miss Jones's door, 12-hour shifts, selling stupid Webster dictionaries. Now, the miracle of it was, I ended up making more money selling books than I did in the oil field. I made $5,400 that summer. I still don't know how that happened. I ended up, remember, I think it was #3 in the nation. I mean, I was blown away, but it wasn't the money, Bill. It was the discipline to say, I'm out there on my own. I'm doing it. Now, what was interesting, the first time, Bill, I'd ever had the experience was I was my own boss. God, I liked it. The oil field, I had a boss. #2, I got paid based on how hard I worked, what I was worth. I saw my other buddies, they slept in. I got up every morning, knocked on Miss Jones' door at 8 o'clock like we committed. I was sick and tired of the oil fields, because some of us worked hard and the other guys didn't, and we got paid the same. And I think God was planting those seeds in my mind that someday you want to be in a position where you don't have a boss. And #2, you get paid what you're worth. If you want to work and make a lot of money, you can do it. Well, that was planting those seeds. Now, the other seed that got planted is my guy that hired me quit. After about a week, he came over and said, Mike, get your stuff, quit. This job stinks. I said, Steve, I don't need you to tell me this job stinks. For 2 years, you tried to recruit me, and I told you it stunk, but I can't go back and get my oil field job. Durwood, you're on a football scholarship. You don't have to stay. Steve, your parents have money. My parents don't have money. I don't have anybody to go to. I made a commitment. I won't quit. People laughed at me and said, you won't make it. There's something about me. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm going to stick it out. Longest day of my life, they left. But Wilton came over and inherited me. Now, who is Wilton? It was his 3rd year. Found out he already had a team, and that team had a team. Holy Bill, that year, that summer, we got over, I got my check for $5,400. Wilton got a check for over $20,000, and he's a college student. Back then, he bought a brand new Chevrolet Impala. We laugh about that car now, but back then, I never known anybody had a new car. And here's a college student. It was called overrides. And I think God was planting that little seed in my mind, overrides. Holy moly. And I thought, and then I got to thinking, so I'm out here looking at this, I'm thinking, I'm involved in a ministry. There were 2 great religious leaders back in those days. A guy that everybody knows to this day, Billy Graham. I don't care. He's been dead, I don't know how many years, anywhere in the world. You know Billy Graham? Oh, yeah, greatest evangelist, greatest personality. I mean, magic personality. He came out to Lubbock once and did a crusade out there. Students who wouldn't get within 1,000,000 miles of a church, they'd come in. I can't believe I heard Billy Graham last night. Unbelievable. The problem was when Billy Graham died, I haven't heard of a big giant guy filling up a stadium since then. He was a one-man show. There was another guy at that same era that had no personality, a little short guy. If you saw him, you'd never notice him. Very boring, not a great speaker, certainly not a motivational speaker, by the name of Bill Bright. A lot of people never heard of Bill Bright, but he formed Campus Crusade for Christ. Now, his deal was, I'm not Billy Graham. I'm not going to try to reach all the world by myself, but Jesus didn't either, he said. Jesus didn't go around spending all this time doing evangelism. He spoke some crowd, but where did he spend most of his time? Those 12 disciples. Just like Art Williams spent his time with those 7 guys. And then those 12 guys, they had 70. Said the 12, the 70, then the multitudes. Multiplication. That's the picture that A. Williams has. That's the picture that Bill Bright gave us. He said, Mike, train some guys to train some guys. That's what Tom Abernathy was doing to me. And then I got to thinking, Bill Bright has been dead now about the same time that Billy Graham has. Crusade is now called Cru, is growing even more than it did years ago. They're in every country. You don't hear a lot about them because there's not the big personality. It's discipleship, training people, training people, training people. The exact personality that Jesus gave us. So, I mean, I'm sitting there looking at this, and then all of a sudden I meet this Wilton guy, and I'm saying, he's making money, but he's using that same principle, multiplication, the same principle they were using in when I was at Campus Crusade. Now, he tried to hire me to go back the second year, and I said, Wilton, I can't. I've committed to go to Campus Crusade. I've got to be out there. He said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you'll help me hire a couple of people and go out the first week, I had a week before I had to report to California for training, I'll pay all your expenses. I said, we got a deal. So I hired some students, and I went out in the field, and Bill, this is what was mine. I saw him making all this money. I thought he was probably working 18 hours a day. So I got out in that field. I lived with him that week. We'd go out and have breakfast at restaurants. I knocked on a door every day at 8 o'clock. I thought that's what he did. I thought he's 7. And then we'd go out and tap him on the butt. Hey, guys, go sick him, Tiger. You're a stud. He was building a relation. He'd come back home and watch the football game. And I thought, how can you do that and make all the money? Overrides. And boy, God planted a seed in my mind. I'm thinking, I couldn't make any money. Crusade, you're not allowed to have any side outcome income. But I liked recruiting people for him because I knew what great training it was for my kids. But just watching him, man, it planted that seed. And I think, thank God I went and sold those books because number one, I learned so many principles about dealing with people, being able to communicate. Then I learned what it means not to have a boss, getting paid what you're worth. And then I'm learning this deal of overrides. So when I graduated, I went with Crusade, and my first year was at Georgia Tech, but the guy was my campus director. Now in A.L. Williams, what would we call that? RVP. He ran that campus. He was training guys like me to be what? So I could be a campus director someday, so I could be an RVP. So sure enough, I worked for him for a year and a half. They said, you're ready. They sent me to Texas Tech. I now became the campus director / the RVP. Then what did I do? I would go meet you, Bill Orender, and I'd share my faith, and you'd become a Christian. I said, Bill, who are your friends? Who would like to share this news with? I know Bob. Hey, let's get a point. Why don't you and I go talk to him? What is that? That's A.L. Williams. I sell you term insurance. You got cash value. Bill, who do you know that's got that job? Why don't you go with me? I don't know what to say. I know. I'm going to show you how. And you watch me a few times. And that's what I watch me a few times. Then I said, you know, you're good at this. Why don't you build a team? Just like primary, why don't you build a team? And I realized as I look back, God could not have given me better training for what we do in this business than what I was doing those years in Crusade. I had a guy by the name of Skip. God, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. One of my dearest friends. Great guy. He was from Auburn. And all of a sudden, I started working with him. They sent him to South Carolina to be the campus director, RVP there. Now, Bill, I worked with him. I had been in Crusade in 40 some odd years, but guess what? Because I did multiplication, he's still at South Carolina doing ministries up there. Now he's traveling the world with Campus Crusade. Why? Because I didn't just go out and try to reach the world. The 5 years I spent with Campus Crusade, I invested and trained people. Now they're investing this 40 years later, they're still out training, investing people. So anyhow, while I was with Crusade, I also realized that, man, you've got to build relationships with these students. I heard a great speaker one time, and I wish I could think of his name. Great pastor. Most people know his name up in the Northeast. But he had a meeting once with President Clinton. And he said, Clinton, your job as a president is so easy compared to mine. He said, what do you mean by that? Couldn't mean anything tougher than mine. He said, well, he said, you think about it. He said, if you need more money, you can raise taxes, and you do. If I talk about money more than once a year, half of my church will leave. Now, if people, when you raise taxes, want to leave, you have the National Guard to protect your boundaries and you don't let them leave. I've got 3 deacons, fat old deacons, that couldn't stop grandma from leaving if she wanted to leave. And the point he's making is you rule from a power of position and authority. As a pastor, you don't have that. Campus Crusade, I didn't have one employee, Bill. I had to build a relation with those guys and say, listen, guys, if we're going to conquer the world, if we're going to tell the good news to just everybody, we can't be watching football and basketball and playing middle sports every night. We got to be out focused and doing ministry, just like Primerica. If you want to become wealthy, if you want to build a team, we can't be around goofing around every time. You have to make some sacrifices. And because you got to build those relationships, you got to take them out to eat. You got to invite their wives over to the house. Bill, when I was in Crusade, I would take students and have them over for supper, and I'd bring businessmen to come over and eat. I want you to meet these students. It was all about relationships and pouring your life into them. And it was the same principle that Jesus was using. Matthew 29, the Great Commission in chapter, going to all the world, making disciples, 19 through 20. 2 Timothy 2:2, one of my favorite verses. It was the model for Campus Crusade. The things I commit to you, commit to faithful people, teach others. So I go to Bill Orender. I said, Bill, the things I'm teaching you, you teach to Joe, so Joe can teach Tom. That's the principle that Art Williams built this company on. But that was the principles I was learning with Campus Crusade. Now, I decided to leave Campus Crusade for various reasons. People say, why'd you leave the ministry? I said, I didn't. You didn't ask me why I left Campus Crusade. I didn't leave the ministry. I still wanted to be charged. That was a lifetime mission for me. But I had some frustrations, the way things were running, a few things that Crusade. I was tired of having a boss. I was tired over me, people over me that didn't know as much as I did, telling me what to do. So I thought, I don't want to have a bad attitude. I think I'm going to leave. So when I left Crusade, Bill, I had 3 things I wanted. Number one, I'd got spoiled that one summer selling books. I didn't want to ever have another boss. Number 2, I was tired of being broke. I'd had a picture that if you're willing to work, you can make money. Crusade, you can have no outside income. Number 3, I still wanted to be involved somewhere I could have a chance to influence large numbers of people. That was my 3 objectives. So Bob Roundtree, who'd been my first year campus director, quote, RVP, wanted me to come to Dallas. He'd become an antique auctioneer of all things. And I thought, I do not want to be in the antique auction business. He said, do you have another job offer right now? I said, well, no, I don't. He said, well, Dallas is the land of opportunity, Mike. I need a guy like you. So if you'll come here, there will be no strings attached. You have all freedom to keep pursuing, but at least you'll have a place to hang your hat till you find that thing that'll hit those 3 objectives of yours. Now, Bob had had an impact in my life. Number one, he'd been my first boss with Campus Crusade, my first director. But also after he left Crusade, while I was still at Tech, he mailed me the book, The Mortality Merchants, the legalized racket of life insurance and what you can do about it. Now, he was not involved with A.L. Williams, Primerica. He was just a businessman, read the book. He'd been an English major, and I think he liked to do a lot of reading. And he just called me and said, Mike, you may want to read this book. My degree was an accountant. I always thought there was a gotcha, that something didn't smell right about insurance. I read the book. I got so mad. I found out I had a 10,000 whole life and found out my agent could have sold me 100. Now, my agent was not just an agent. He was one of my number 1 financial contributors, one of my best friends. And he had always been putting pressure on me to buy more insurance. I said, Lonnie, I don't have money. So anyhow, I had a fit. I called Lonnie. We split company. And immediately I started calling people. Most of you know Bill Stewart. He's one of my $1 million earners now. First guy ever hired in Primerica. I said, A.L. Williams, you need to read this book. If you're like me, you're getting ripped off. He read the book, called me up a couple of days later. He had 5 kids, was living on $900 a month. He said, Mike, this is unbelievable. I fired my agent, canceled him altogether, canceled my policy, found a new agent. For the first time I've got adequate insurance, I'm paying less money. He said, Mike, this is incredible. And so we got excited. He got excited. I said, Mike, you got to tell more people. And you pick up fishing. All of a sudden you're at Bass Pro Shop looking lures. You're reading fishing magazine. Bill, what do you fish with? Bill, I became know about insurance. Bill, businessman, what do you know about insurance? And everybody had it, but nobody knows anything about it. So I started sharing with them what I knew. And they said, why don't people tell us that? I think it's called commissions, I said. They make more money selling the garbage. So anyhow, I go to work for Bob, and he, the guy, to give me the book. So I had to go on a business trip to Florida, and I bumped into an old acquaintance who had also been with Crusade. His name was Howard. And I said, Howard, what do you do nowadays? He said, I sell insurance. And I jumped on him. I don't like insurance. I don't know how you sleep at night. I beat him up pretty bad. He said, wait a minute, you would like us. I said, no, I don't like any of you guys. He said, no, we sell term insurance. He opened his briefcase and had the book, Mortality Merchants. I said, you let people read that book. How do you sell it? Because once they know how you rip them off, you can't rip them off. He said, no, we don't rip them. We educate them, show them how to buy a term, invest the difference. Now, understand, I hated the antique auction, but now do you understand auction? But you understand if you've been in auction, you got the guy does, who'll give me 200, who'll give me 400. Well, the guy can't look at the whole audience. So you hire these idiots in front, and their job is to look at Bill Orender waves a finger. And you say, yep, yep. Well, that was my job. I was making $1,000 a month. A fifth grader could have done my job. And I'm thinking, God, you got a sense of humor. I graduated with A's and B's in accounting, paid my way through school, made money, 5 years of ministry, and this is the best I can do. Holler, yep, yep, on Friday and Saturday nights. I mean, it was not a good year for me. So I'm looking. So I said, Howard, tell me something. You're doing what I do for free. Can you make any money? This was in 1977. He'd made 100 grand that year. Now that's a lot more money it is today. He had his own little airplane. He's flying over Florida playing big shot. I called my wife. I said, you remember that knucklehead? Steph, he makes 100 grand doing what I'm doing for free. So I said, who do you work for? He said, I work for Mike Hughes. He had a company called Financial Planning Institute. Now, Mike Hughes is my the guy that overrides me in Primerica now. So I called Mike Hughes. I didn't know him from Adam. He's in Orlando. I'm in Dallas. I said, Mike, you don't know me, but I want to go to work for you. I do what you guys do. I do it for free. I hear you make money doing it, and I'm broke and I'm hungry. He wouldn't hire me because I couldn't do it full time. I said, man, I've got a mortgage. I have no money. I've got debt. If I miss 1 month's paycheck, that'd take me off to jail, man. I have no margin. Why can't I do it part-time? And Bill, as you know, the industry did not allow anybody to do it back then part-time. Don't know why, but they didn't. So when you're hungry, you don't take no for an answer. I wrote him letters. I corresponded. I said, man, you got to give me a chance. Please, please give me a shot. So finally, they made an exception. They said, Mike, I'm going to give you a shot. I said, well, what do I do now? He said, you get a license. How do you do that? You figure it out, big boy. You said you want a job, go figure it out. So I found out there was a commissioner. I don't know even how I found that out. I called him. They said, you need to order this book. I ordered a book. I studied. I go take the test. I remember I panicked because I get in the test and they said, where'd you go to school? I said, Mississippi State. No, we're in school. I said, oh my God. Nobody told me I got to take insurance school somewhere. No, how do you going to pass the test? I don't know. They told me to read a book. Well, when you're hungry, you read the book good. I passed the test. I called Utes. He sent me an out. Sent me a rate card. I've never met Mike Hughes. I don't even know what he looks like. He could look like John Wayne for all I know. So all of a sudden, a guy who had been best man at my wedding had gone to work for that same auction business and mentioned they were having a baby and said, Mike, you know an insurance agent? I need to buy more insurance. I said, well, look, I had 10, switched it to 100. Let me tell you what I did. We found out he had the same policy, the same agent, Lonnie Johnson, that I had. So I made a sale and Bill, I made $300. Now, when you only make $1,000 a month, 30% pay raise, I thought this stuff really works. So 2 guys I play handball with, I went and shared with them. I made $700. 2 months later, I decided to match my full-time with part-time, which isn't hard if you're only making $1,000. I made $1,100. Next month, I spent very little time in this business, but man, I went out and I made $5,000. I mean, I still can't believe it. I made $5,000 in 13 days and went out and spent another 6 days really pursuing it and made $4,000. And I looked at it in 19 days, I'd made $9,000. My other job, I'm making 365 days a year to make $12,000. I remember coming home to my wife, I said, Steph, this is incredible. I remember sharing with her, I said, Steph, Mike Hughes, when I make 5,000, he makes 5. If I could get his contract last month, I would have made $10,000. I'm part-time. If I went full-time, I think I could make $20,000 a month. Now, Bill at 77, holy moly, $20,000 a month. But I said, Steph, show me where the flaw is. I think this could happen. People say, why didn't you go full-time? Oh, that's a different story. Number one, I hate sales. I thought I'm going to do it for a while. But 20 years from now, I got to look for somebody. I got to join the Lions Club. Can you buy some insurance? Can I tell you, I just didn't want to do that. And number two, it only qualified for one of my 3 goals. What were my 3 goals? I wanted to make no boss. It hit that one. But number 2, lots and lots of money. I knew you can't make lots and lots of money just doing personal sales. And number three, it was not going to put me in touch with a lot of people because it's just sales. So I said, no, I'm just going to keep making some sales, save some money, but someday I'll find something different. But thank God, Mike Utes knew Art Williams. And Art was 18 months old, Bill. And they invited me to Atlanta. First time I met you, you were the star of the show by far. You and Art, the rest of the guys weren't that terribly impressed. But they were mentioning you were about to come to Texas. And Art Williams got to talking. He said, guys, you don't want a sales company, you want a management company. In sales, you're unemployed every day. Sales, you're limited how much money you can make. There's no security. And all of a sudden I thought, that sounds like Bill Bright versus Billy Graham. He said, in management, you have unlimited income because it's not just you. You're not making 100% off of you. You're making 1% off 100 people. You don't want to just be in sales. In other words, you don't want to try to reach the whole world by yourself. You want to do like Bill Bright, train some guys to train some guys to train some guys. And he says you can hire part-timers. I had people begging to go to work for me. People knew that all of a sudden I'm making $3,000 to $4,000 part-time. Most of my friends were only making about $1,500 to $2,000, and the company wouldn't let me hire them. I was so frustrated. Why doesn't anybody understand? One man can just do so much. If you'll let me hire some people, we can do some damage out here. And all of Art Williams says, that's what I want you to do. I thought, holy moly. I called my wife that night and I said, Steph, I've just decided to go full-time with this business. I called Bob Roundtree, and he was expecting the antique guy. I said, Bob, I'm through. I'm finished. He knew that because he knew I was making far more money outside than what he was paying me. He knew I hated the antique auction business. Now, you understand, I go back to Dallas on Monday. I'm brand new. Bill, I think you came out about 2 weeks after that. I'd call, where's your office? God, I don't have one. I wouldn't know how to get one. Do you lease them, buy them? What do you do? Well, send me a brochure. Well, if Art Williams had one, he didn't send me one. Well, just give me a business card. Oh, we got another problem. I've never had a business card. Where I come from, you don't have business cards. My guys were mechanics at factories. But yet 26 people went to work for me that month. Why? I went back to my clients. I said, remember how much money I saved you? Let me show you how much money I made. And Bill, you gave me Tom's name. I went and sold Tom. Let me show you how much money I saved him. Now, I didn't know Tom. If you'd have gone with me, he was your friend, it'd been an easier sell, and we could have split it basically. If I'd have made 500, you could have made 250. Wait a minute, you mean if I'd have gone on and watched? That's pretty good watching wages. 26 of my clients went to work for me the first month in this business. No office, no business card, didn't have a clue what I was doing. I mean, I just sit there, but now why was I so confident that I could hear Art Williams on one night? Call my wife that night and call the boss, said, come Monday when I get back, it was a 3-day school back then, Bill. When I get back Sunday night, I'll be full time. Well, number one, it hit all 3 of my goals. First thing I'd seen, Bill, did all 3 of my goals. Number one, there was no boss. My gosh, I like that. I thought, man, no boss, unlimited income. I saw the money these guys were already making, and Bill, they were just 18 months ahead of me. So in 18 months, I could be making the kind of money those guys are making. Oh gosh. And number 3, I saw that Art was already impacting large numbers of people, but I started to project that. Having been in the ministry, I understood multiplication. I thought in a couple of years, I could be impacting millions of people. Part-timers, I knew that would solve my problem because I knew they knew people. I didn't know that many people. I knew I liked management versus sales. And then I saw that thing that Wilton Burst planted in my head from that year selling books, overrides. I thought, holy moly, Art's telling me this job, if I train people and I got some good guys out there, I could go fishing someday and still be making money. I said, oh my God, that fits all of it. And it was very relationship driven. I understood that because there was no bosses. I knew how to go out and develop because I knew I wouldn't be able to boss people, make people do stuff. It was very relationship driven, and that's what I was looking for. Bill, I'm not a risk taker at all. But to me, I did not see any risk. I knew that cash value was a bunch of junk. We beat them every time, not some of the time. Insurance is a mathematical problem. You add 2 + 2, it's 2 every time. It's not 2 + 2 is 4 every time. It's not 5 sometime, 3 sometime. I knew that he was using the same plan that Jesus had. Now, did Art ever sit down and say, now, what plan did Jesus use? I think I'm going to copy it. No. But in reality, he copied it exactly what Jesus did. He started those 7 and they got 7 and they got 7 and they got 7. Well, see, when I saw it, I thought, this is my game plan. Now, Bill, if I went out and, I'm not a golfer and you play me in golf, I said, oh man, I can't. But if you said, let's go play handball, whoa, that's my game. Let's go do it. When I saw this, Bill, it was my game. This is what I live for. That's why I went and sold those stupid books door to door so I can learn how to build with people. That's why I spent 5 years in ministry relating with people, how to develop relationships. I knew about term insurance. I mean, this is a no-brainer. So I signed up. Art brought me in on a regional leader contract. I made 160 that year. Now, in 1978, I joined him late 78. That year, I was 29, $160,000 as a division leader. That's unbelievable. I became an RVP. Normally back then you had to be an RVP 2 years. Art made an exception because I'm in Texas doing my own thing. I made RVP and I made 460,000 my second year. Now you had inflation. Art called me here a while back, said, it's always his last talk. He's going to speak something. He had something the last time he ever speak. But he wanted to take some of those guys and say, now in today's dollars, what did Mike Tuttle make in today's dollars? I forget how many millions it would have been. It was some crazy number. But I'm sitting there thinking, now look what happened if I'd have stayed with Utes. Prior to Utes, I have nobody working for me. Then every day I get around and bust my butt to make $3,000 and $4,000. I switch over to Art Williams. First year I make 160, next year 460. Now here's my question. Did all of a sudden I get smarter? Did I go take a Tom Hopkins sales school and learn a better sales script? No. I plugged into a multiplication system, a duplication system. It's like, again, I'm losing in basketball, but then I go over to the first graders, I'm winning. Why? I got in a game I can win at. When I joined this business, they weren't all Harvard grads, Bill. I remember one of my dearest guys is Randall Walker. He told me about hard paper. What's a hard paper? Well, it's hard papers. And I remember he brought that big Cadillac out. And I asked Buisan, I said, is that his car? I don't know anybody in Mississippi even had a Cadillac back then. Bobby said, remember, somebody has to sell the farmers. And Randall works with he relates to those farmers. What a business he built. He became one of my greatest friends. He and Mary, two of the greatest people ever. Unfortunately, we lost Randall a number of years ago, but we used to hunt, have great time. But I watched him and I thought, if Randall's got a chance to make it, I've got a chance. I'm a country old boy like him. I got a chance. If he'd been some fancy guy, I couldn't do it. But all of a sudden I look at that. Now, let me take, Bill, you remember this. And I asked my guys back then, why didn't anybody see a fallacy in this? But they started the Breakfast Club. I think Andy Young, and Andy's unbelievable. I love Andy. But the Breakfast Club, basically, you had to recruit so many people. I think personally, it was either 1 or 2 every week. And if you didn't go, you had to do pom-poms. I said, I will not buy into that, because the problem is, if I recruit 2 people this month, I don't want to recruit next month. My goal, I want to recruit 4, but I want to do it through those guys. If I just do 2, 2, 2, 2, that's addition. And then I don't have time to work with the 2 I hired. They drop off and I end up doing 10 by 10, 10 by 10, 10 by 10. No. Now, if he says, now, Mike, if you recruit 2, next month, if you recruit 4 through those people, we're going to give you the big prize. Now we're promoting multiplication. And I didn't see that. One of the things I always tell people, don't take my word. Go do the numbers on this. But let's say I hired you today, it's January 1, and I say, Bill, I'm going to give you 60 days of my life. And Bill, we're not going to burn up the world. All we're going to do is I'm going to see if I can recruit you 2 people, if we can do 4 sales. Now, out of those 4 sales, 2 should come those 2 people recruit. Now, would anybody on this call say, Mike, what you're asking is it's just too hard to accomplish in 60 days to hire Bill Orender and hire him 2 people and do 4 sales in 60 days? Folks, you ought to be that in a couple of weeks, but 2 months, for God's sake. Now, if you can't do that, whose fault? Is that Bill's fault or my fault? I should look at your market and know, my God, you don't know anybody. Your market is terrible. But I'm going to look at a guy before I hire him and say, is this reasonable? Can we do it? Then I'm going to hire you. Now, we're not setting any standards. That's 2 months. But the next 2 months, those 2 we hired, can they do 2 recruits and 4 sales? Well, look at the numbers. Just recruits, you go in, there's 6 2-year periods for those you're in slow in numbers. 6 2-month periods in a year. First, you got 2, then 4, then 8, 16, 32, 64. But that last 2-month period, those 64 would recruit you 128 sales. But you got to divide that by 2 months. So at that point, basically, you're doing 32 recruits and 64 sales. So for the first part of the year, nobody even notices you. But all of a sudden, maybe Tuttle's on to something. But then multiplication takes place, compound interest, so to speak. The next year alone, 6 periods, right? You got 128 recruits. So I'm gonna round it off. 250, 500, 1,000, 2,004. The last 2-month period of time, that second year, you'd have had 4,000 recruits, 8,000 sales. That's 2 months. You got to divide it in half. My God, you only had 2,000 recruits and 4,000 sales. You understand, you'd be the biggest star this company ever heard, and you never put up any massive numbers. All you did was 2 by 4. But see, we don't talk about, like you said, Bill, we talk about you got to get that other recruit to get those points. Quit worrying about winning stupid contests and just worry about building a business. Man, if you get people stick, if you get people to hang around, if you pour your life into them, man, it's multiplication. Bill, if I'd have quit when I was at Mike Hughes, Bill Stewart wouldn't be in the business. Hardman wouldn't be in the business. Sharp wouldn't be in the business. Hector wouldn't be in the business. Susie wouldn't be in the business. Younger wouldn't be in the business. Randy Godfrey wouldn't be in the business. Yasapa, you just go on and on and on. But look here, I joined Art Williams. If I'd have quit just after a couple of years, said, I don't want to do this. I'm gonna go back doing something else. All those names I mentioned would still be in this business. That's what happens in multiplication. See, all those guys came from what I did those first 2 or 3 years. Bill Stewart was in my base shop those first 2. Randy Godfrey was in my base shop. Hart was in my base shop. That's what multiplications. That's why I knew this was my game. That's how I knew I would have to win. It may take me a little longer than I thought, but I understood multiplication. I'm sitting there thinking, gosh, scary thoughts, scary thoughts. What if Jesus had just tried to talk to everybody and didn't disciple those 12? Bill and I, you wouldn't know about Jesus. What if Bill Bright had not decided to create Crusade and he just tried to be a Billy Graham? I probably would have never really heard the good news about Jesus. What if Art Williams had just been a salesman, Bill? You'd still be broke today, Bill, and I'd still be broke today. What if I had just been a salesman when Art hired me? All those people I just mentioned, I've got like 25,000 agents, active agents. None of them would know this business because we plugged into a multiplication system. And it just scary thinking, what if these guys had all just been salesmen? What if Art had just been a salesman? If he'd been a Mike Hughes, what it would have cost us. The message today, folks, is we got to sell out from multiplication. It's the greatest way to build a business. It's the greatest way to build security. I mean, Bill, you look at the security you have. I go fishing with these doctors in Mexico, and I love great friends. They complain, Mike, I do surgery 5 days a week. When I'm down here with you, my overhead stays up here and I don't make a dime. You're the only body I know that comes there and they don't have to worry about an income because you guys never learn multiplication. They don't teach you that in school. I look at law, I mean, everybody, I sit there and think, I'm almost the only body down there. You go to other businessmen, they're worrying about the stock every day. I thought, God, I go fish, I have fun. Bill, you take your kids to vacation, Disney, you have fun. Why? Multiplication. Now, to get that, folks, we got to sell out, building relationships with those people. And the last thing I always say is, folks, we got to make sure we sell out. Don't let people quit. We don't understand how valuable that person is. And a lot of them, Bill, I know we deal with a lot of knuckleheads, but it's like kids. Sometimes they have to go through puberty. I heard a guy on YouTube that had given his testimony. I referred to him as the candy bandit. He was the kid at my ranch that we call was slipping into my little guest house every week. And his parents worked during the day. He was about 12. He'd found out how to get in it. He had the remote control. I had a supply of candy. And we kept thinking, of course, like somebody's been in your house. There's candy wrappers. Somebody's been using the toilet. Well, we didn't have any guests over there. We catch him one day. And my former son, why are you here? Well, I had to use the restroom. Well, why didn't you do it at your house? Well, I couldn't hold it. Well, Mr. Tuttle, this is his house. Yes, it was like Goldilocks. You can see the candy wrappers. And he had a chance to make, he had the perfect height. He had remote control, unlimited candy, but he got caught. And I'm just sitting here thinking, man, this guy, we put up posters, wanted candy bandit. Now it goes by Snicker bar, Hershey bar. Kid never had a dad. His mother died and he was 3 years old. He's had a tough life. He was a knucklehead for years. He's now working for churches, giving his testimony. I was in tears hearing him today. have patience. He had to grow up. He had to go through puberty. I look at Tony Stevens. I wanted to kill him 1,000 times. I thought he'd never go through puberty. But I look at Tony Stevens now. Holy moly. Man, love him. And that's what Art did with us. You know, he loved on us. He believed in us. I had a guy once, I don't know if you remember Winston Edmondson, Bill. He was from Jamaica, personality, seminary, talented. And we got him to RVP, and he did the RVP march for a month or two. And all of a sudden production goes down. We're in a stupid co-op and he couldn't pay rent. And we're all, man, he's got to, you know, roll him back. And we sit down, if you roll back to RL, the amount of money you'll save, you don't have any expenses, you'll net more money, blah, 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 blah. So he agrees. Yeah, okay. The next day I come back, a note on my desk. I quit. I'm not an RL. I thought, how stupid can I be? Bill, a smart guy, would go into Winston. Winston, look, man, you're a stud. Now, we know what you can do, but all of a sudden you've got off track. Here's what I want to do. I'm going to pay you rent for the next 6 months. They don't need to know that. This is between me and you. Man, you're going to be a stud. I don't even want you to think about rent. I want you to think about multiplication, building. You got it. Someday you can be one of my $1 billion, and he would have been. Instead, I made him feel like a zero. You're a dud. You can't pay rent. Art says you make people feel special. And I went out of my way to like, man, you're a dud. You can't even pay rent. I cost him a fortune and I cost me a fortune. And I think that's immaturity on my part because we were young. We didn't understand long-term what happens when someone makes it. Art always gave us that formula. If you just produce 7 to 10 RVPs, that's not many, first generations, and they just make 50,000 a year, that's minimum wage. And they've been with you about 3 to 5 years, you'll become financially independent. Now, Bill, you know as well as I do, that term is different for everyone. Financially independent, some of they just had 50,000 a year income, they're set forever. Others need 100, some need $1 million. But so I called, this back in the John Edison era, finally got a hold of his sidekick. Oh guys, I'm drawing a blank. But anyhow, I said, yeah, I said, would you look up what the average income is that anybody who's ever had 7 to 10 making 50,000? And I remember coming back here, you sitting down. He said, Mike, it's about $700,000. He said, Mike, we were shocked. That was Art's formula. So if I had 7 to 10, let's say just 7 guys, and they're averaging about 700,000 a year, and I'm making, you got 7 RVPs. What does that mean you're making off of each one of those knuckleheads? About $100,000 a year. So you got a guy's a knucklehead, but someday goes through puberty, makes an RVP. You make about $100,000 a year off of him. And if you're dumb enough to sell it, it sells about 8 times earning. So if you're making 700,000, you sell it, that's about 5.6 million, which means each one of those 7 guys would have made you how much money? About $80,000 you're selling for. And I'm sitting there thinking, so I've got this kid, the candy bandit. If I can get him through puberty someday out of here, I can sell him for $80,000, or that'd be if I'm stupid, or I can make $70,000, $100,000 on him the rest of my life. Why would I let people quit? Why would I just love on people? Why would I be worried about trying to set all these stupid recruiting? I want to build people, build people, build people. So fortunately for me, when I came to this company, I had Bill Bright as a role model. I had already sold books and I had that experience of thinking, wow, get paid what you work, no boss. And then I met Wilton back then, and I saw a young guy because he overrided some people in a sales books, making money I couldn't even relate to back in those days. So when I came to Art, all those things that I'd spent the first years of my life, 30 years of my life, it was all right there before me. My multiplication, train people, develop people, build a management, have security, unlimited income, hire part-timers, pour your life into them, disciple people, overrides. And so that's why I say I'm not a risk taker, Bill, but to me, there was no risk. I can truthfully say I don't remember having one nervous day when I've been, and not many people ever say I went full-time from scratch and never had a nerve, but I didn't. I mean, you make 160,000, you only make, you have to make it full-time job, the other job 12. So it's an incredible business. And the great blessing, I meet people like Bill Orender and get to spend my life with them. So Bill, I thank you. My time is up. And
well, let me ask you a question, Mike. The vibe I'm getting is you loved it so much, you saw it so much, you wanted everybody else in on it. You didn't recruit from, oh, I know you're it's going to be hard and nasty. Talk about that for a second and how you wanted them into this system because you believed in it so much, because you saw it as the way out.
Since Pete Briscoe, who you know, Pete, he was my past years, he came on and said, Mike, I figured you out after all these years. I said, what's that? You take great joy in letting people do something they never got to do before. I ride a horse. I shoot a shotgun for their first time, go on their first quail hunt, go catch their first big bass. I said, I don't know, I ever thought of it, but I said, you're probably right. When I first started making some money, Bill, I wanted everybody to. I thought, my God, this is fun. Why would I not want my guys who are broke to come make money like I'm making? I sit here today and I see people working and bosses and having to get permission to do stuff. Why wouldn't I want them to have the same kind of freedom I've got? So from day one, Bill, it was never about that I can make money off of them. I can truthfully say that was not the plan. The plan was, I thought, my gosh, you'd be great at this. Look what you could do. Look what would happen when it happens to you, what's happened to me. Man, we can travel the world. We can have fun together. And I just look at the fun me and my guys have had through the years. But Bill, you see the people that it's all about, you know, just what they can make off of people. But you show me the person that says, no, man, I want to train that guy because I know this could be good for him. Good things happen to those people. It really is.
Like, I hate to, you know, people talk about money. I use you as an example of the boys down there, the one with the quadruplets, that woman with the teeth. I show pictures of it occasionally. Talk about how gratifying it is to see someone who desperately needs it, which we don't see in America, frankly. And you see down there in the power you have to change lives because you have the time to do it and the money to do it.
I don't know if I can get through this or not, Bill. No. God has put so many stuff in my life the last couple months. I'm in Mexico the other day on a dove hunt, hit brain moment. And the last time leaving my Spanish, Mike, I want to meet this young boy. When he was 2 years old, he had cancer in an eye, a tumor, and they went to take it out. They accidentally took the wrong eye out. To hear the story even worse, there were two boys, different family. The other one had this bad eye. They got the boys mixed up. They took both their good eyes out. Both kids have no eyes. But the one kid found out they gave him a lifetime annuity because he's now blind. This one, though, they said, because you're blind, it was cancer. We think someday it may have transferred over here and you lost him, so they didn't give him a dime. He's now 8 years old, and I met him that day. They don't even have a bathroom in their house. They have no running water. Nice mom and dad. They didn't have a bed, Bill. The lady introduced me, just bought them a bed. I went and bought the kid that bed a day. He's supposed to come to America once a year to get his special tumor, the Thomas Foundation, whatever, unbelievable. But he can't get his visa because he doesn't have the $150. It's expired. I gave him the $150 that day. Just yesterday, I sent them some money. They're coming here and they needed some money for taxi, whatever. They asked for $100. I said, America, that'll cost him tax loan. Let me send him $500. I'm trying to buy them a house right now. I'm down there in Cabo and the lady says, I want you to meet a little boy. 4-year-old kid, beautiful little kid. Never been sick a day in his life. A month before I got there, he started stumbling. They didn't say he's got a massive tumor. They gave him 4 months to live. I go and meet him. Healthy as can be, but he can't even stand. I said, no, we're going to get him a doctor. I want a study done on him. And they said, you know what? There's a chance we can get him Mexico City. Bill, they don't have any money. So the lady helped me, got the husband a job at Pueblo Nito Rosé, so there was insurance, and I'll pay the flying. He's been there for almost 2 months now. He's flying home this week. I just sent him money to fly him home. They think he's going to survive. They had to spend weeks in therapy just to get him strong enough so he could have the surgery to survive it. You see his picture, good looking kid. I just fell in love with this kid. I thought, why all these people keep popping into my life? I just bought a family for another house in there last month. They're moving in this week. Lived in dirt floor houses, 4 kids, no husband, mother's retired, no running water, no bathroom. Bought them a brand new house. The little boy is now paying. He's been working since 7-year-olds providing for this family. First time ever he'll have his own bedroom. First time they'll have their own bathroom. And it just, I just go through story after story. It seemed like this past month, every time I turn around, I got a call 2 days. You remember Maria? She sent me a picture of her good friend's dad. His foot is totally rotted. She said, you can't go in the room, but he can't afford it. He's trying to get surgery, doesn't have money. I just found out about it. I'm sending him the money this day to have surgery because he can't go to, the doctor says they're running the test. It may have gone into the bone. If it is, we can't even do surgery. He's dead. They got to amputate the leg. But if they hadn't gotten the bone, but he's dead, Bill, if I don't send him money down there. I mean, I sit there and I said, how come nobody's letting me know how they're, and I just sit there and I'm thinking, every time I call Art Williams and I say, Art, I couldn't be doing this for this people. I've had some of them write Art letters, said, hey, Mike says you're the reason he's in a position to help you guys. But I don't know. And the Bill, everybody in this call would be doing the same thing if they were in a position financially to do it. When you meet people like that and you've got unlimited money, you do it. It's not that Sonia, the gal that had the bad teeth, I don't know if she had that tumor that was over the size of a baseball. Why didn't you call me? She said, Mike, you spent so much money on my teeth. I just couldn't ask you for it. 2 years it was growing and she couldn't afford the surgery. $9,000, Bill. When she had the surgery, the doctor said, if you'd been another 2 months, we couldn't even fix it. You would have been dead. And that was deal. It's like, now, I mean, $9,000 and she's about to die and embarrassed to call me to ask for money. So she's the one I've had send Art some letters, but you sit there and you think, golly, I just go on and on and on. So it's been a very, with the COVID and all the stuff, and I've been going there taking so much money, helping families and helping them survive. Had a little girl the other day, cliff palate. I didn't know that's hereditary. You're old. I know the husband, he's a fishing guide. Well, why haven't you fixed it? Mike, it's $900. We'll never have $900. Here's the 900 cash. Goes and gets the surgery. She falls out of the bed 3 days later, lands on it, totally destroys her arm. Now we're going to have to do the surgery again. But can you imagine you're the husband and now you got a chance to fix your daughter's face. She'll be normal. So unfortunately, we have to get it fixed again. But this is all just in a couple months, Bill. I mean, this isn't like over years. I mean, it's just, it's like I say, it's hard for me to talk about it without getting emotional because it has been one of the most fun things. I just praise God every day. He's put me in a position to help these people. It's the most incredible experiences I've ever had in my life.
See, Mike, if you hadn't committed yourself and others and believed in the multiples, this never would have happened because you talked about, it was not Primerica, it was the one A.L. Williams, it was the system that the override that everyone can have.
Too many buys just in personal sale that makes millions of dollars. I mean, Mike used to make 100 grand back there, but that's not the kind of money we make today. And like I say, I didn't become smart, Bill. I didn't become more talented. I'm not a great salesperson. I'm not a great at, all I knew is I knew how to love people and I really genuinely cared about people. And if Art says hire some people, to hire some people and train some people and let the multiples take place. But I mean, my gosh, after 2 years, I looked what was happening in our lives. I mean, when you're already making 400,000 40 years ago, and I look at all the, Bill, if I'd have never made another sale, never persecuted another person, never had another base shop, I'd still probably making over $1.5 million, maybe, or $1 million or so a year just off of that. How much security would you have if for 40 years, you still didn't have to do anything, but had $1 million a year to go down and everything's paid for? Well, who am I going to spend this money on today? And to me, it was never about how much money I accumulate. My wife had me see a movie, Bill, years ago called Schindler's List, about the guy that protected all the Jewish people who were getting put in the fires. And she said, Mike, you need to watch this movie. And that last scene, he says, I've had a tough couple of months, guys. He cries, he said, I could have done more. And every time I leave Mexico, I'm saying the same thing. I get millions of dollars, make a couple million a year. And for $5,000, that guy's leg, I can save his life. If I can just get the money down there today to save his leg. Sonia saved her life for $9,000. That little boy they're given 4 months to live. Hopefully he'll be able to live forever now. And I'm thinking, I'm in a position to help a lot more, Bill, but I mean, I wish I could never seen that movie because it haunts me every time I leave down there. And not just Mexico. Anywhere you go, you see them in Dallas. I mean, but man, down there, they don't have a rich relative. They don't have a government to help them. They don't have anybody. And just, I've got a little lady calls me maybe once a month. She sent me a picture. I don't have any money. Mike, could you help me with $30? $30? yeah, I can help you $30. I have a program. I'm sending it in and instantly get $30 to them. Other people, my car just broke. Is there any way you can help me with $300? And they just feel so bad about asking. Yeah, I can do that. But the health question is the one that you see these kids and with brain tumors and, oh my gosh, the list goes on and no eyes. Can you imagine 8 years old, Bill, you wake up in the middle of the night,
Mhm.
no bathroom, stumble out through the house, you have to go to another building to find a bathroom. And the dad works at a hospital, really nice, good looking guy, about 30 years old, really nicely. Positive people, no bitterness, but they moved there just because they got relatives close by. But now, I'm gonna get him a house with the toilet, and I've got my Spanish tutor, and they're looking for one now. And I thought, thank God we're in a position to do it. So it's we're blessed people, we really are. But
Well, Mike, thank you. This has been fantastic. And you know how I feel about you and your family. And this has been iconic. Thank you very much, Mike.
thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Took our breath away. All right. Thank you.
All right.
See you next week, everybody.